Hello, my name is Rick Adams, the CEO at Practical CSM and also of the Success Hub. And this is a short series that we're doing around customer success and tech startups. And today I want to talk about something specific, which is how customer success can be used to reduce churn and increase renewals. So, okay, when we're talking about churn, of course, what we're talking about is customers who are existing customers who are on a renewable contract with us who do not renew. That is our definition for churn. So they've got to be an existing customer who is on a contract and they do not renew that contract. They are said to have churned. If, on the other hand, they do renew the contract, they have said to have renewed. So, for example, if we've got 100 customers today and they're all coming up for renewal tomorrow, we get to tomorrow, let's say 80 of them renew and 20 of them do not renew, then we have a churn of 20 and we have a renewal of 80. And because it's 100, we could also put that as a percentage and we could say our churn rate is 20%. So that's how we work it out. So renewals and churns are effectively two sides of the fence. They are combined to say, well, the entirety of all of our customers who are existing customers. Now, notice that this does not take into account any net new business. So the fact that I've got 100 existing customers, maybe I've also got 20 new customers who are about to sign, and maybe they sign new contracts. So I've got, out of my 100 existing, I've got 80 renew, 20 churn, I've got 20 new customers. So my 20 new customers, if you like, replace my 20 churned customers, and I still end up with 100 customers. But my churn rate is still 20%. For obvious reasons. I still lost 20% of my previous customers, which means that this year I didn't grow. If I'd managed to keep all my customers, well, I'd now be on 120 customers. And so I would have grown. Of course, on the other hand, if I'd lost 40 of my customers and only renewed 60 of them, and the churn was 40, well, then, of course, I would have shrunk overall. I would have had a negative growth, and I'd be down to just my 80 customers. So you can see here that churn and renewal, very important statistics. If a large part of, or even all of, your revenues is coming from renewable contracts. So it doesn't tend to make so much sense to calculate for anything else. It's really focusing on the renewable contract aspects of your business. So if that is a significant part, or as I said, for some people, for some organizations, if it's the entirety of your business, then your churn rate, your renewal rate is very important. Of course, what you're looking for is the minimum churn possible. And the way you could look at this, of course, is if you imagine like a bucket being filled with water, and the water are your customers, or the revenues from your customers, let's say, then you've got a tap or a faucet, and you turn on that tap and faucet. That's like sales. And the strength of the flow of the water into the bucket, it is analogous to the amount of sales that you're making. So if you're great at selling to new customers, you're going to have a strong flow of water into the bucket. It's going to take less time for that bucket to fill up. You're growing the amount of water in your bucket quickly. Now, at the same time as that is happening, perhaps there is a hole at the bottom of the bucket. And so water is flowing in from the faucet at the top, but it's flowing out again from the hole in the bottom. And of course, this is like your churn. So if you have no churn, that's like, zero churn equals no hole in the bottom of your bucket. A small churn equals a small hole in the bottom of your bucket, and a large amount of churn equals a very large hole in the bottom of your bucket. So if you think then about the size of the faucet equals the flow of the water coming in, i.e. how good your sales is, similarly, the size of the hole equals the flow of water coming out, well, that is how good your renewals are. Well, then we can compare the two. And if the hole is bigger in the bottom than the faucet is at the top, then overall you are net losing customers. So maybe you're gaining 10 customers a month and losing 15 customers a month, then of course it won't take you long before you haven't got a business. Of course, hopefully it's the other way round, and you've got 15 new customers a month and you're only losing 5 customers a month, in which case, your net growth is 10 customers a month, so you are growing. However, you're not growing as fast as you could be if you had less churn. And that is the point about churn and renewal, is once you've, as an organization, as a new business, once you've, if you've like, and I'm going to use the word mastered, but I don't think I really mean mastered. I mean, you've got to grips with sales. Once you've got the basics in place and you've got a process that is working, you need as quickly as possible after that. And I would suggest you focus on net new sales first, because of course initially you've got no customers, so you have to. But once you've got something in place that is a reliable source of new growth, of new sales, the next thing to turn your attention to is plugging up the holes, because those holes are very, very costly. They are actually losing you as quickly as you are gaining, or even worse, more quickly than you're gaining, in which case you're out of business. So this is why it's so important. That's the relationship, if you like, between the churn reduction and churn increase and the success of your business. And so it is a critical thing to bear in mind. Now, customer success management is the best practice process of helping customers to get value out of the products or services that you've sold them. And this is a cost, just as any mastery of any other best practice is going to be a cost to your business. Having customer success management in your business means having specialists, having people who are trained and qualified to deliver the best practice advice and guidance to your customers to help them to get value out of your products and services. Now, if you've got simpler products or services, you may be able to get away without customer success managers. Maybe you can automate a lot of it. Maybe you can build stuff in to your actual products and services in the first place and make them so easy to consume that they don't really need any help or advice. And if so, then that is fantastic, because that is a very low cost way of maximizing renewals, minimizing churn. However, for the majority of B2B anyway, organizations who are selling, perhaps, for example, complex software systems, then the likelihood is that there's going to be some value that you can get out of, at least for your larger customers, providing them with a customer success manager, and that CSM going in and advising the customer, giving them help and guidance, following best practice to make sure that they get the value that they wanted and desired, that they get it quickly and efficiently and effectively, and that they are recording it and processing it and presenting it to decision makers, so the decision makers are aware that the value is being attained from their investment in our product, our software, or whatever it happens to be. So there we go. There's some thoughts there on the importance of using customer success management to reduce churn and increase renewals. To really get to grips with it, we've got to understand, well, why is our customer churning or renewing? And one of the biggest things that I would say that is a way that we could impact it is by not waiting until the end or near the end of the contract to talk to the customer. So the way that the customer success manager can have a really strong impact on renewal rates or churn rates is working with the customer on a regular basis throughout the entire period of the contract. So for example, if it's a 12-month contract, not waiting until month 10 to say, oh, how are you doing? And by the way, we're hoping you're going to renew in month 12. It's too late. Instead, working with them on day one, week one, month one, and then on a quarterly basis to ensure that there is a success plan in place, that the success plan is being followed, that the success is being measured, and that it is the level of success that is required to hit our 12-month or 3-year or whatever targets, and that all of this is being measured and recorded and presented back. And so every quarter we can come to the customer, we can show them the roadmap, we can show them the milestones, we can show them the achievements, and we can say, and the good news is this is doing exactly what we said it was going to be doing. Now, of course, if it isn't doing what we said it would be doing, then this is our opportunity to make some changes. This is our opportunity to say, look, this is not going according to plan currently. We are not hitting the targets that we ought to be. Here's the get well plan. Here are our recommendations for what you need to do to turn things around. Because initially when we built the success plan, what we didn't take into account was this unknown factor or that unknown information. Now we know about that, we can build that in, and we can now make sure that we're dealing with it appropriately. And so this should get us back on track, and then we'll meet again in the next quarter and we can see whether that's worked or not, and again adjust as necessary. And so what we're doing is we're working with the customers throughout the term of the contract to ensure that they really are getting the value out of their product or service with us, instead of waiting until the end and then just asking them, did you get the value out of it, and hoping that they did. If you work with your customer right from the beginning, there aren't any nasty surprises. It's not a question of us waiting and seeing. It's a question of us knowing, and the customer knowing all the way through, so that there isn't a question about, are you going to renew the contract or not? I mean, there's a polite question that needs to be asked, but there's an obvious answer. Well, of course they are. They're getting the value that they needed out of it. Why wouldn't they? And they still need that value, and it's known. And by doing that and staying abreast of what the customer needs, because by the way, customers' needs change. And so again, if we've allowed for that through the period and helped them to make changes in the way and adapt the way they use our product and service to get the new values that they need, then again, when it comes to the end, they're very, very likely to renew, unless there's some other reason. They're going to renew because, well, we've got the proof and the evidence that they're getting the results they wanted. If you're getting what you want out of what you're doing, you're going to renew. So there we go. That's customer success, reducing churn and increasing renewals. A very important concept, I would say, for startup tech companies to get to grips with. And again, when do you do this? Well, I would say that it may not be right from day one. You need some customers. You need them to be using your product. So I would say that this is something that you might bring in from year 2 onwards, depending upon your status and how long it takes customers to get to grips with your product and levels of sophistication and so on. So something along those lines. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you found that useful. Goodbye for now.